This video is part 2 of 3 videos that cover setup and installation topics related to the HyPerforma 5:1 Single-Use Bioreactor, or S.U.B. It is based on the Thermo Scientific HyPerforma 5:1 S.U.B. User's Guide. Please refer to the User's Guide for detailed instructions. Topics covered are also applicable to Thermo Scientific HyPerforma 2:1 S.U.B.s unless otherwise noted. In this video, we will cover the following topics: initial BioProcess Container or BPC loading, drive shaft insertion, final installation steps. Each outer support container is designed for a specific BPC. Verify that the correct volume and type of BPC is being used for the corresponding volume outer support container. The BPC should have a tag on the bearing port labeled 5:1 mixing. Use the following BPC handling guidelines. Ensure all workspaces are free of sharp objects. Do not drag any part of the product across the floor. Use acceptable trays, carts, or tables, or hold the product by hand. Handle the product carefully. Remove the irradiated BPC from the protective double poly bags. Remove the packaging cable ties that secure the drain line. Load the BPC from the top into the outer support container, avoiding any sharp edges that may damage the BPC. 500-liter HyPerforma 5:1 S.U.B.s have an access door to make BPC loading easier. Prior to loading the BPC, open the access door and reach inside to open the clamp on the bearing port receiver located below the motor. Then load in the BPC through the door and install. Orient the BPC with the bearing port up and toward the motor drive, with the aseptic connector probe ports facing the bottom access cutout. Place the bearing port into the bearing port receiver, close the door, and close the clamp. Use the back access window to route the side and bottom ports through the opening in the outer support container. Route the sparge lines, bottom drain, and sampling lines through the appropriate openings and remove the bubble wrap. Route the sparge lines through the bottom plate and loop them around the sparge line holder. If a cable management system is available, attach the lines to the appropriate inlet ports. Remove the bubble wrap and connect the incoming gas feed lines to both the overlay filter and the sparge filter. Install the vent filter and ensure that the filters are located above the maximum liquid level. Clamp off all lines prior to inflation, but leave one exhaust line unclamped. If you are using a pressure sensor to monitor inflation, connect its pressure transducer cable to the third-party controller. Inflate the BPC with air through the overlay filter, but do not exceed an internal BPC pressure of 0.034 bar or 0.5 pounds per square inch. Inflation time is approximately 10 to 20 minutes. Time will vary based on flow rate, inlet pressure, and container volume. As the BPC inflates, ensure that the ports, drain, and sparge lines are properly oriented in the support container. Warning: the BPC is not rated as a pressure vessel. The BPC should not be allowed to become tight during inflation or operation. Be sure to stay with the BPC during inflation at all times. Do not exceed 0.034 bar or 0.5 pounds per square inch within the BPC, or the BPC could fail. For reference, the BPC will appear to be tight at 0.007 bar or 0.1 pounds per square inch. See the User's Guide for recommended airflow rates. The operating pressures for the HyPerforma 5:1 S.U.B. are important, and these values must be adhered to. As the container fills with air, check to make sure the sparge lines are properly aligned. Standard HyPerforma 5:1 S.U.B.s only use one sparge line. While a sparge line check valve is provided for each sparge line, it is not uncommon for some fluid to bypass check valves during typical use. Elevating the filter will reduce the chance that the filter is exposed to liquid. Use the 4 bottom cutouts located at the base of the support container as a reference to align the hanging tabs on the BPC. Attach the bottom corners of the BPC's hanging tabs to the tab holders or pins on the HyPerforma 5:1 S.U.B. For 250-liter and 500-liter BPCs, attach all hanging tabs to help position the ports. Position the bottom side drain, pulling out and downward to position the port toward the bottom edge of the HyPerforma 5:1 sub. Align the row of probe ports within the access window. Verify all port clamps are closed and located as close as possible to the body of the BPC. Connect the media ground clip to the stainless steel insert in the sample line on the BPC. This step grounds the media inside the BPC and helps to eliminate electrostatic charge. Warning: before you insert the drive shaft, the BPC must be adequately inflated so that it is sitting upright in the outer support container. HyPerforma 5:1 subs are supplied with a torque wrench in addition to the spanner wrench for drive shaft insertion. Remove the latch pin from the safety cover over the mixing assembly and open the cover. Unscrew the motor cap covering the hollow pass-through of the motor. Warning: ensure that the correct drive shaft is being used. Because the HyPerforma 5:1 sub is capable of mixing at much lower volumes than traditional 2:1 subs, it is important to use the correct drive shaft to avoid damaging the hardware. 50 to 500 liter HyPerforma 5:1 drive shaft heads are black and engraved with 5:1 mixing. 2:1 mixing uses a system with a different impeller angle and is covered in a separate sub-user's guide. If applicable, first assemble the drive shaft. Insert the first piece into the motor and hold it in place with the pin. Attach the second piece. You may optionally use the supplied ring wrenches to tighten. Warning: the threads on the shaft segment are reverse threaded to avoid being uncoupled during mixing operation. To tighten, turn counterclockwise, and to loosen, turn clockwise. Avoid over-tightening the shaft segments. Use two hands to load the drive shaft through the hollow pass-through of the motor assembly. Warning: do not use excessive force when inserting the shaft. Use a slight back and forth twisting motion to aid in insertion and avoid stretching the impeller tubing. If you feel pushback, you are using too much force. When approximately 51 to 76 millimeters, or 2 to 3 inches of the shaft remains, twist back and forth slightly to engage the impeller. When approximately 25 to 51 millimeters, 1 or 2 inches of the shaft remains, twist back and forth slightly to engage the bearing assembly. When approximately 6 millimeters or 1/4 inch of the shaft remains, twist to align the motor drive keyway with one of the 4 outer slots on the drive shaft head. Directly couple the drive shaft to the motor drive. Place the motor cap on the hollow pass-through and hand tighten clockwise. Tighten the motor cap by placing the supplied spanner wrench on the hollow pass-through and tighten the motor cap using the supplied torque wrench. The torque wrench is a standard 10 mm or 3/8 inch square drive. It is calibrated at the factory at 16.9 Nm or 150 inch-pounds. Remove the wrenches from the system and place in the storage holders. Close the safety access cover and insert the latch pin. The air supply to the overlay filter can be turned off once the drive shaft has been inserted. Again, be sure to clamp off all lines prior to inflation, with the exception of one exhaust line, so that once the air supply is turned off, deflation doesn't occur. Optional: wrap and secure the vent filter heater on the exhaust filter. Connect the power cord to the controller, which is preset to 50 degrees Celsius or 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Verify that the heater is plugged into an appropriate 120 or 240 VAC outlet. Ensure the exhaust vent filter is on its holder. Some custom BPCs are supplied with dual exhaust vents. The vent bracket can accommodate 10-inch and 4-inch filters in either single or dual configuration. Check to ensure that a bar clamp is closed on the bottom drain line as close as possible to the BPC port. Remove the plastic insert located in the thermo well if present. Insert the resistance temperature detector, RTD, or selected temperature sensor into the thermo well. Rotate the probe either clockwise or counterclockwise to aid insertion. The sensor should be inserted until the base of the probe meets the mouth of the thermo well. Secure by twisting the lure lock collar if provided. The thermo well will stretch slightly when the RTD is seated. If you haven't done so already, you may connect a pressure sensor's pressure transducer cable to a third-party controller. This completes part 2 of 3 videos that cover setup and installation topics related to the HyPerforma 5:1 sub. Please continue viewing with video part 3. For further detailed instructions, please refer to the Thermo Scientific HyPerforma 5:1 Sub User's Guide. Contact your sales representative or get more information at thermofisher.com/sub.